Good afternoon. Welcome to Tim One Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth. My name is Glenn Parrish. I just want to say thank you for watching our videos and following our podcast. The purpose of this is basically to show how the Holy Spirit is still moving today in everyday Christians' lives, and they can move in your life also. If you have any questions, feel free to message us. Feel free to leave comments on the videos, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you and have a blessed day. Good morning. This is Glenn Parrish with 10-1 Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth with Pastor Leroy Hurd. He is our guest today on our podcast. Pastor Hurd, good seeing you again, brother.
Pleasure is mine. Pleasure is mine. Good seeing you too.
I met Leroy, about 7-8 years ago now?
Yeah.
He was actually my boss. Leroy gave me an opportunity to run his shop. And Leroy, what we're going to talk about today is basically your past. I know we talked about it personally. I'd like for you to share it with the crowd. Okay. And also where the Holy Spirit is taking you through this. So if you want to give the people a little bit of background, okay, the floor is yours.
All right, well, I'm Leroy, and I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and didn't really come from the church background thing. I've just been, a young man that was very eager, modest, but eager to accomplish life, and to be an example in our community. And so, very, outgoing, my grandmother is probably about the one I can give the credit to share, a little bit to me about God, but being a young man running the streets, man, left the house kind of early, and so didn't really get a chance to get a lot of the teaching, but like I said, very outgoing. And so just was in the inner city of Buffalo, New York, and trying to just find my way as a young man without a father, mother there, but for the most part, my grandmother is the one that really took care of me. And, and just trying to figure out a way to, to discover life, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, right? And the best way, to accomplish it. And just like any other young man that's been, raised in, the inner city, you find yourself in trouble,
Exactly.
You're in and out of situations, and you don't really have a whole lot of people to talk to or to even help you through it, to deal with. So I've always had a prayer life. I always, wanted to do right. I always, believed God to, bring me out of a circumstance or a situation, but I've always prayed for wisdom because I just needed to figure out, how to deal with certain situations. And I believe he did that for me. And, running back and forth in the streets, I wouldn't want to quite say, any gang-related movements that I made, but, just bad decisions as a young man.
Bad decisions as a young man.
Bad decisions as a young man, and just, just ran with a group of guys, and, and we just, was out here in these streets, man, and then I got pretty much, as a young age, got introduced to crime and drugs, things like that, and, didn't really have a whole lot. So, to be able to go to the store and buy your own sneaker name brand, and have a couple of dollars in your pocket and just, feel a little bit free and liberal, you start getting involved in certain things.
Right. And that's a real temptation too. People don't understand that when you don't have money and everybody else has it, you want it. I mean, especially, you mentioned your grandma instilled it into you, but, my grandmother did also, but the truth is, I want those shoes. I can't afford those shoes. So, it's a lot of things that, the temptation of lust is a powerful thing in a young man's life.
It is, man. And it was to the point, where, you get one pair of sneakers, so, and I'm from New York, so it's snowing. So you put that pair of sneakers in your book bag and you try to keep it as long as you can, you know what I mean? And so, but yeah, it's very tempting, man. And but man, I'm gonna tell you, man, God brought me through it. I flew around there and got, into my own place, kind of very young. It was roughly around about 13 years old. I ended up getting my own piece of property.
At 13?
At 13,
wow.
Man.
I didn't know that.
Well, I ended up paying somebody, to be able to put the property in their name and things like that. And but like I said, I was on my own very young.
Where did you come up with the asset to be able to pay for that property at 13? The streets?
Yeah.
I mean, don't let me put the drugs. Okay, that's why we have hustling and so forth.
Yeah. That's where I was able to get the money up, man. You know what I mean, and started, getting the property. Pretty much didn't have nothing to go in it for a while.
Right.
You know what I mean? But got on my own, stayed on my own, and then after a while, I started accumulating certain things, and then got into some really big trouble, and because I was still young, my mother still had custody of me, and so at that point, man, she, they shipped me out to Job Corps. I didn't go to jail or anything, but she ended up sending me to Job Corps, which seemed like jail. You're going somewhere. Seemed like jail. You got a young man that's free, and now you're going somewhere and they telling you when
you're making money now.
Right. You know what I mean? Like you just messed up everything. You know what I mean? But it actually was a blessing because it actually was a blessing because Job Corps was something I never heard of. You know what I mean? And really didn't understand it. And then the interview, they made it seem very tasteful, and so I think I had an option anyway.
Right.
So
Now, don't let me put words in your mouth. But was Job Corps an option instead of going to jail when you said you got in trouble?
No, it was more so internal trouble with my family.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Okay. And so it's like, what we gonna do with this young man?
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And so I wasn't in a situation where I was battling with the law and I had a decision to go to jail or go to a detention or go to Job Corps. It was one of them situations where I had got into it with some guys in the streets, and my mother told me to come into the house, and I didn't.
Right.
And I guess they was coming up. Well, they came back for retaliation, shot my mother's house up.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, they shot my mother's house up, and I guess at that point, enough was enough. I'm bad enough. I'm not living here, but this is my neighborhood. You know what I mean? And now I'm bringing danger to to the house, whereas to the loved ones, you know what I mean? And so, you don't think about that, man. Run fast, you know what I mean? I can fight, you know what I mean? Like, you don't think that this is the next level at such a young age, you know what I mean?
There's more to life than just you.
Right. You ain't thinking about that at 34, you know what I mean? So you're fearless, you know what I mean? You feel like you're untouchable. I used to always say, I feel like I was a matrix, I just couldn't be touched, and just dangerous, you know what I mean? But I tell you, man, when they, my parents, you know what I mean, pretty much pulled the trigger where I had to go to Job Corps. That's a program where, you do 2 years in it, and you stay there, and when you leave with a trade. So I took carpentry, and then you leave with a stipend. I can't remember at this time, a couple $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, something they give you. But that's where I met my wife.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where I met my wife at, man, and that right there took a turn for me.
Was she in Job Corps also?
She was in Job Corps as well. And man, we started dating, man, and and things started moving forward. And I think that now I had a sense of responsibility because I loved her. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't have that embracing of that kind of love from nowhere else, and I didn't have anything that I felt that I even wanted to put time into. Right. So and I did that with her.
You mentioned your parents pulled the trigger, and you said that you were raised without your dad. Do you have a stepdad that was influencing your life, or just your mom when you said your parents?
Yeah, well, it was like, so my mom was there, but my grandmother, the one that kind of really took care of me.
Right. Okay.
My father was never really there, but I had a lot of uncles. I had a lot of uncles. I had 8 uncles. You know what I mean?
I love my uncles.
Yeah, man, I love them too, man. You know what I mean? But they kind of made me man up, but they still was in the streets too. You know what I mean? And so but they took care of me, and I was little Leroy to everybody. Right. But I had something to prove because I stayed on a street called Leroy. And my name is Leroy. Okay. So I had to make sure this was my street, you know what I mean? I'm claiming territory, you know what I mean?
My dad was Leroy. You know that?
Really? I didn't know that.
Leroy, yeah.
He might have told me. I can't remember that, man. But wow, he got to be a great man.
That's a different podcast. Totally different podcast.
Gotcha. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was really my uncles that were there. You know what I mean? And they were everything to me, you know what I mean, because they have respect in the community, they was running the streets as well, you know what I mean, but because I didn't have my father there, I believe that they took on that role when they could, you know what I mean, when they could. But my grandfather played a big intricate piece too.
That was my next question.
My grandfather, because he was no joke, you know what I mean, he was no joke, man, and so, and so he pretty much, when I needed something, he was there, you know what I mean? It's so funny, man, because he was a man of short words, but you knew what he was saying. I remember one time my grandfather had a lot of property, and he would have me go cut the yards. He would drop me off, and I would with a push mower, and I would cut all of the yards, and then he'll come back and pick me up. Man, one day I was driving with him, and we were going up the street, and I seen some money in the street. You didn't know quite what it was. It was a $50 bill. Right. And I said, "Granddad, stop!" I said, "There's some money in the street," and he pulled over, and I jumped out the truck and went and got the money. And when I pulled the money out, he said, "Son, how much did we find?" And I didn't catch the "we" word. He said, "How much we find?" I'm excited, you know what I mean? I'm like, "It's $50, you know." And he reached in his pocket and he handed me $25. I'm like, "Whoa, no, I got $75, you know." And he grabbed the $50 bill out of my hand, you know what I mean? Yeah, he said, "You didn't find $50, we found $50, you know what I mean? He split 50-50, but it was those lessons like that, you know what I mean? That, and there was a pile of them, you know, that he kind of just shared and taught without teaching, you know what I mean? And so, you know, man, so it was pretty great for me, man.
Yeah.
You know?
My grandfather, he died when I was like 6, 7 years old, but the memories are vivid. Yeah. You know, I joke about it now, but every time I went to stay with him and my grandmother, which was about every weekend, my dad was paralyzed, and he kind of took me under his wing and so forth. Because of that, I got bedroom slippers and a haircut, whether I needed it or not, every Saturday morning. That was my grandfather. Every Saturday morning. Wow. But yeah, you know, the lessons we learned from our uncles and our grandfathers are so valuable. Yeah. And, you know, especially in the society where now we're so many unwed mothers, you know.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead and continue. So your grandfather kind of helped raise you?
So my grandfather pretty much, you know, did a lot of the helping and raising me, you know what I mean, and teaching me, you know what I mean, showing me. But he was a hard worker too, you know. And so my grandmother didn't work, you know what I mean, which that was kind of custom back in them days. You know, he was the provider and things like that. And so he was there, and if I had a question, he would definitely answer, you know. But I pretty much had to raise myself, you know what I mean. And I don't know quite if I can say that was my choice or that was just how it just ended up happening.
Maybe a little both, you think?
It might have been a little bit of both. It might, when you look back at it now, because I have other siblings and stuff like that, you know. But when you look back at it, it was probably a little bit of both. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna tell you something, man. When I look at everything that I've done, like anyone, yeah, you made some mistakes and you wish you could pull back the hands of time. But for the most part, you know, I've learned this old phrase: when the teacher is teaching, the student is learning. You know, and the world has become my teacher, and I have always put myself in the place of a student, and so I've learned from the things that I've done versus you know, allowing life to take a toll of me and just woe is me, you know, point the finger and blame the world. You know what I mean?
One of the biggest attacks Satan uses against us is that right there. You know, well, if this hadn't happened, then I wouldn't be the way I am. Maybe the way you are because you choose to be the way you are. What you happen is designed to make you stronger in Christ. So you can deal with those things. Now, before we go to break, we're coming up on a break. Before we go to break, you mentioned that your grandmother was your spiritual influence. Right. She was a church. Yeah. Okay. What about your grandfather?
My grandfather got into the church a little bit later on in his life of their marriage. But when the good Lord took him out of here, he was definitely saved, and he was definitely, you know, pushing the service for the Lord. Yeah. But in the beginning part of it, no, man, he was just, you know, she hung in there, man. She was a praying
through it. That's right.
She sure was.
I'm married to a praying woman, and I understand.
Yeah. It works. Prayer works. You know, if you have the patience to hang in there.
Right. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about, you know, you and your wife when y'all got married and what brought you from Buffalo to Jacksonville area and your salvation experience, if that's okay.
Yes, that's great.
Appreciate you guys. We're with Tim One Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth with Pastor Leroy Hurd. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Tim One Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth with Everyday Christians. We're with part 2 with Pastor Leroy Hurd. When we went to break, Pastor Hurd was talking about basically how his grandmother and his grandfather, their salvation, they were their spiritual influence, especially his grandmother. When did you mentioned your wife, you met her in Job Corps. When did y'all decide to get married, and how did that whole relationship come, and how did you come to Jacksonville?
Well, so me and my wife, we were together for about almost 2 years or so. It might have been a little bit less than that. And you know.
You better know.
Yeah, I know. I'm better because she's definitely on it.
Yeah.
She know time and date. You know what I mean. I told her one time. I said, "You probably know the date that you were born, the time, you know, that you were born." But we were together, and I didn't never. My grandparents were the only one that was married, so I didn't know how that thing went.
Right.
You know what I mean. Mind you, at the time of us getting married, I was probably about, I think I might have been 17 or 18 years old.
Wow. Okay.
So we still needed a consent to get married. Yeah. So, and I had a ring that I wore, and I just took it off and I gave it to her and asked her to marry me. You know what I mean? And she said, yeah. And you know, we ended up having, at this point, we have 5 children, 3 girls and 2 boys.
Right.
At the time of us getting married, she was pregnant with my oldest daughter. And I had my own place, so she came in, moved with me, you know, and we having a little back, you know, and so we still was in New York at the time.
Right.
And, you know, and I went through, you know, different businesses, man. It just changed my life, you know, once I got, you know, married, you know, still was in the streets a little bit, still having some hiccups.
I was
and some
about to ask you
runs.
that.
Yeah. So, you know, I still was kind of, you know, I still was wilding out a little bit, you know what I mean? But after a while, I started having children, and then things kind of, you know, mellowed out, but I didn't just stop everything that I was doing.
It's just like you slowly get into it,
Right.
you slowly get out of it.
Exactly, you know, because my job wasn't working, you know, and so the street world was my source of income to be able to take care of me and my family, you know, and so we ended up getting a place, man, and she moved in with me, and we began to build, you know, and to go from there. And then, you know, had a little hiccup where I did, you know, happen to go to prison for some time.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And so,
yeah, I ended up getting into some trouble, and I ended up going to prison for 3 years.
Do you mind explaining what
Yeah,
you did?
so I had quite a bit of stuff going on at the time, and so I was constantly, you know, getting into fights, and I didn't go to prison for any drugs or anything,
right,
but with violence.
Okay.
It was violence, and so I ended up catching a couple of cases, and I was out on 2 bails. Well, I also ended up purchasing a cab company, and so I had a cab company, and so because I was already out on 2 bails, a misdemeanor and an E felony, I had a pistol on me, and that was the third charge, not as a third felony,
right,
but I was out on 2 bails fighting 2 cases,
right,
and now I got caught with a
pistol.
Yeah, but I was in the line of work, so and that was pretty much a concurrent situation that caused me to go to jail. Like, okay, this guy is just not a regular guy who's not catching in trouble, you know. Right. Although that really was me, I really wasn't, you know, out killing and shooting people, right, you know what I mean? I was in the cab. Yeah, protection. I was in the cab company. I got people behind me, but nevertheless, that was the final straw.
Right.
You know what I mean? That took me down, and so I believe we had 3 children at the time, you know, and so I ended up having to go to prison for 3 flat years, and they took me like way out far, so visits were short, you know, and I did my time. And
you did all 3 years?
I did all 3 years straight. But it was then where I really met the Lord. Now, we know that that's always the case when people go to jail. You know what I mean?
That's what my son went through it to
right,
6 weeks after he got out. He was right back doing what he's doing.
Right, and that was kind of my situation as well. You know, I did the 3 years. I had a gentleman in there that really believed in me. And I heard about the Lord, and I seen the experience. I've seen my grandmother do amazing things in the ministry, and we started from ground zero of ministry, you know, and so she was the first member of 3,000 church membership, you know what I mean? And so like we've seen, I was a part of everything,
right,
but I didn't know anything.
Right.
And so I had time, 3 years, to read and to study, and one of the correction officers, for some reason, found very great interest in me, man. And I would never forget that, and I probably would never be able to get a chance to thank him. And I wouldn't probably even be here if I didn't have that experience in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I didn't have that experience in there, because I really studied, and I started a Bible study there that is still going on to this day, and I started acquiring. Now, I'm not the best singer, But I was just so, and now you're talking about in prison where a lot of men, you know, and you're talking about, you know, people, man, that won't look at you certain ways like out here in the streets.
Right.
But I was really sold out. God kept me safe, you know, and when the Lord released me, you know, I was crazy, man. I was relentless. I was out here, man, and I was just, you know, doing the work of the Lord. And probably about 6 months, man, after that, like, I don't know, like life just like took a turn, you know what I mean? And I'm free, you know, and I just got back into the streets, but I didn't like no drugs or anything like that. I mean, just like, you know, drinking and partying, you know what I'm saying, going to clubs, things that I wasn't even doing before all of that, you know. So I know that wasn't none but, you know, attack of the enemy. Well, what happened is my wife wasn't going to church. She understood the experience I was having in prison, but when I came home, I was very like, you know, I was very relentless, you know what I mean? So everybody was looking like, wow, this is, you know, I have a lot of nicknames, you know what I mean? So they like, this doesn't seem like the same guy, you know what I mean? And then once I started back, everybody was loving it, man, you know what I mean? Getting back into the streets, wilding and things like that. And then my wife started going back to church. I was like, wow, man, you want to go to church, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And when she started going to church, man, you know, I just, after a while, I just started going back with her. And when I went, I couldn't get my life right because I would party, like I would work and do all kinds of stuff Monday through Friday. But Friday night and Saturday night, oh man, I get hammered. You know what I mean? And I come to church on Sunday, you know, intoxicated, man, you know what I mean? And I'll go to the altar and I'll be crying out, Lord, I want to get saved. The next week, same thing.
Happens a lot. Yeah, happens a lot.
It happens a lot, man. And I'm gonna tell you something. I had a friend, and he's a pastor now, but at the time his name was Elder Heron, and he found great interest in me. He knew me, and he says, why don't you come to church on Wednesday? Wednesday, man, I'm bad enough. I'm coming on Sunday. You know what I mean? You know. And because I went 3 weeks in a row on Sunday going to altar, and it just didn't happen. And I went Wednesday, and he called altar call. And they never call altar call on Wednesday. and I gave my life to the Lord, and I've been running ever since.
That's what. Now, you said you helped your grandma start the church, and you knew it. Even in prison, you were doing all this, but you felt like that's when you gave your life to the Lord. That was
exactly.
Now you probably had 100 what I call emotional experiences before then. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of people. You know, they believe that just because they say the words that someone lead them through. You know, the Bible says, "Draw them out of me, and I'll draw them out of you." You have to be called. The Holy Spirit has to call you. And I had a similar experience. I got saved at 16 years old to play on the church softball team.
Right.
That's the only reason I did what they asked me to do. Okay?
Right.
I got saved at 33 years old in the Church of God Church. Okay, and it was totally different. You know, you know it when you get saved. You know it, and so even the great things you were doing in church. In prison, starting a Bible study, starting a choir. Lost people can do that, as you just experienced. Lost people can do that, and part of this podcast is to let people see that everyday people can do extraordinary things through God.
Right.
And that's an amazing story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you and Miss Bianca, y'all were married. Y'all both got back into church. She got saved too, I'm assuming.
Yeah. She got saved too, and I got saved, and then I was out there, man. I was witnessing to people, things like that. Well, my pastor was driving around, and he seen me out on the street, like praying for men and witnessing to men. My call has really been for men, and I don't know why, I'm just passionate for that, And on Sunday, he said, I seen, and at this time now I'm a minister. He said, I seen Minister Hurd out there praying on the street. He didn't see me, and he said, but this is the work that has to take place outside. And I was like, man, I just started crying, man. I got real sensitive since I got saved, man. You know what I mean? Like everything was just so emotional, man. And I started seeing change with my wife, started seeing change within me, I'm done with the streets. I got different businesses going on. And I opened up a corner store. I opened up a grocery store in one corner, and then 2 corners down, I opened up a clothing store. Well, when I opened up this grocery store, I'm saved now. And I'm in my neighborhood where people know
The old Leroy.
The old Leroy, you know what I mean? And so I wanted to change it, so I opened up a grocery store, and I didn't sell any alcohol, I didn't sell any tobacco, and I didn't sell any scratch-offs. So in the urban area, and you don't sell any of those things, it's kind of hard to be able to stay afloat. And so, and I didn't open up on Sunday, because if I'm not gonna work on Sunday, be in church, I didn't think somebody else should either. So, so I would close, well, what I would do is I would go into the store, and on Friday nights, when the guys were getting ready to go out to the club, because there was a club called Jazzy's right next door to the store, I would go and close the store down, and I'll begin to start praying for the men's safety. I tried to encourage them not to go and not do certain things, but not a whole lot of persuading to not do so. And so I would just start closing the doors and you know, and start praying with the guys. Well, you know, the store became very popular, and we was making a lot of money, you know what I'm saying? And so I had a lot of people coming and wanting to buy the store. And I would just take the number and I would put it up underneath the cash register with no intent and desire to change, to sell the store. Well, I don't know what happened to my wife. I never asked, but she came to me and she said, I want to move. Now we own our own property, you know, ministry's going well, business is going well, we got money, what the world just happened. But, you know, me as a husband and just seeing her eyes, it's not important for me to know what happened. I have to address the situation, you know, and so I said, well, where do you want to move to? You know, and she said, I want to move to somewhere, but I want to get out of here. So I'm like, man, something really must have went down, you know what I mean? And so, and to this day, I never asked her. And so I said, well, we can narrow it down to Florida or Virginia or Charlotte. And she said, well, let's do Florida, which I was all in for that. You know, we get these brochures of palm trees and things like that. Well, so she books me a flight and a rental, and I come down here to Jacksonville. I just figured it was the middle of 6 hours between anything that's going on.
Pretty much, yeah.
And she booked me a flight, man, and now I don't know anybody. I have an uncle that's here, but we don't really do a whole lot of talking, and I tried, but it just doesn't work, so I didn't have anybody else here. Well, I had a pastor friend that was here, and he's here for a long time, and he's from my hometown as well. So what happened was, now my wife been wanting me to leave. I don't want to leave my hometown. I know how to move around here, you know what I mean, but now I have to figure out. So I get down here, I get a week. I'm in this week, I'm in here in Jacksonville for a whole week, downtown by the airport. Man, this does not look like what I was getting in the mail with brochures and palm trees and things like that. But nevertheless, I told her, I'm not moving. And she said, did you call Pastor Jackson? Did you call Pastor Jackson? I said, no. And it was my last day. And I called him. And he said, man, meet me on Bay Meadows at Denny's. And I said, all right, put it in GPS. He said, I got an hour before I got to get to work. And man, he had a drop top BMW. And when I started coming over Bay Meadows, I'm starting to see wide streets, you know what I mean? You know, and he takes me in his BMW, drop top. I'm like, okay, this is the kind of stuff you don't see in New York, you know what I mean? And he takes me out towards Ponte Vedra. I'm seeing big houses. This I haven't seen this all week we being here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, your side.
Right, you know what I mean? So my wife called me, she says, are we gonna move? I said, yeah, we're gonna move, you know, and we packed up, man, and we moved here to Jacksonville. I was part of the Church of God in Christ, and my bishop was Bishop Leroy Anderson. He was a general ward member of the Church of God in Christ. And so when I moved here, I was going to Cathedral, which is downtown, Kinsey. And I ended up going with Pastor Jackson, you know, because he was my friend, and he was in ministry as well. And nevertheless, man, you know, I worked in their ministry, you know, for a period of time, and came down to Jacksonville, started businesses, and started moving on. My kids started growing here, and then all of a sudden, in 2014, you know, God called me to pastor.
Awesome. We're going to stop right there for our next break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Truth Church and where God's leading you from here to there. Okay?
Awesome.
This is Tim One Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth with Pastor Leroy Hurd. We will be back in a few moments. Welcome back to Tim One Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth. We're with part 3 with Pastor Leroy Hurd. When we left before our last break, he was talking how God called him to minister. And this segment, we're going to finish up with him talking about his ministry here at the Truth Church. Pastor?
Yes. So God called me to pastor the Truth Church, but before we became the Truth Church, you know, I was very, very like super deep. You know what I mean? So our very first church name was Spirit and Truth Holy Tabernacle Church of God in Christ.
I remember that.
Yep. You know, so man, we were deep, man. You know what I mean? And it was a long name.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, there you go. Put that on a t-shirt. You got to go all around the back. You know what I mean? So, you know, man. But I had loved the Lord and I was focused. You know, so I got installed and ordained. You know, Bishop Gary Hall. He installed me and ordained me into our church, and we began to do a work in the greater city of Jacksonville. And so after about a year of being up under the Church of God in Christ, and really having a hard time of making this decision of transitioning from the Church of God in Christ, of something that's all I knew,
Right.
to become an independent, non-denominational church. It was a hard decision to make, but I had to make it because I believe that this is where God was taking us. But in that same time, we transitioned from Spirit of Truth Holy Tabernacle to the Truth Church.
Right.
And then it was as though God really started taking us on another level. You know, it's like he just like catapulted us to the next level, man. And it was like, wow, you know, you wouldn't believe that you can have stagnation just because you won't obey God of something as small as a transition.
Right.
You know, so we transitioned, and God began to mold us and to grow us, man. And we really big with outreach. You know, I love being out there witnessing. That's where my heart is at.
You do some amazing outreaches also.
Yeah.
You was telling me, if you know, I'm not trying to interrupt, but the picnic table thing you was telling about an apartment complex. You mind going into that at one of your outreaches?
Yeah, so we do what this thing is called adopting the community. So we'll go into the community and we adopt it, meaning simply we will go in there and we will be here for you. So we'll go and we'll bring in, you know, laptops, you know, we'll go in and try to help educate the kids for free, you know, and things like that. We'll try to do mock interviews, you know, we'll come in and we end up getting some picnic tables, and we will go into the community and we would get the community to help us put them together, and then we would leave them there for them, you know. So we was kind of giving them an ability to be able to get half hands on, you know. Some of the mothers didn't have fathers, and so those were some of the things we were able to do. We had a barber, which is a barber shop that I go to, and he will come and he will cut the people hair, you know. The young men hair, things like that, you know. So it was really big. And now, I mean, I got pulled behind grills now, popcorn machine, kite cane machine, ice machine. So now we have really, you know, God has blessed us where we got an organization donating to us 30 laptops, you know. And so now we have a campus that's big enough to do it here. We have a community that's right across the street. And that's pretty much what we do in finances. We don't have a whole lot of money, but we do our part with giving back to the community, you know, and sharing what God has given us. We have a clothes bank, you know, food bank, and so we do quite a bit, you know. The community here, if we was to leave, I really believe they'll be wondering, where are you?
Right.
You know,
and where you're at now, go ahead and give the address, you don't mind, and then tell the story what you told me earlier about where the church originated from, where it started.
So right now we're located at 99 Barnes Road, Jacksonville, Florida, 32246. And we are in the facility of one of the great apostles that's here in the city of Jacksonville, by the name of R.J. Washington. R.J. Washington was a great man of God. He did a lot of great work here in the city of Jacksonville. And this is the first facility that he built. And I'm not from the city, but I've heard the work that he's done, and I've had opportunities to meet him even before I came here, not knowing the work that he was doing here. Well, when we got into ministry, this was a facility that I looked at, and there was a young man that asked me to come and support him to preach, and he was preaching in here almost about 10 years ago. Right. And when I walked in, I seen, you know, I'm a guy that got good vision and opportunity, so I seen that building needed some help with some life, and I think that's what they were trying to do by bringing the preacher in and trying to get him to build, obviously, or something didn't happen, and the building started dilapidating and set for some time, and God had allowed certain things to happen in our ministry that shifted us from where we were at until where we are now, which is in this building.
Which feels like home. This is,
oh man, this here, this is fitting for us.
right. Yeah.
It is fitting for us. I mean, and you know when God is in it, when it just flows. Exactly.
Exactly.
when it just flows.
It's always work, but it don't seem hard. It's always work, but it don't seem hard.
Right. You know, and so and that's that's the beauty of it, you know, and so we're constantly trying to better, you know, we live by a model, good is not good enough when better is possible.
Amen.
And so we're trying to do better, you know, as far as what we're doing in this community. And so we have a way to bring the community together through the business and through residential. And so oftentimes we get business cards and we have prayer sessions in here, believing God for businesses. We put pamphlets together, information together, so that the community knows what's in the community. So especially if you just move here, you really know what's going on in the community. And we actually had a huge block club party that we were going to do this year. We just moved in here in October, and it was going to be super, super big. We had 30 vendors. I mean, it was going to be really awesome. And then we had the COVID, and so hopefully by God's grace, we might be able to push it towards the end of this year. But it is our desire at that point to really bring the businesses that's in this community and the residents in here, and so that now you're just not my neighbor, you're my friend.
Amen.
You know,
That's awesome.
so that's the plan, and we're gonna do it every year. You know, and we're gonna make it look like an amusement park out here, man.
Well, let me know if I can help you out with that.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep you in the loop, man. I'm gonna
amazing,
keep you in the loop, because that's what it's all about.
That's right.
You know,
That's right. You mentioned your business. Do you want me to talk about your business and how God has blessed you in that?
Yeah, God has really blessed me, and God has given me a gift. I have been, I never had a job. I never punched a clock for someone, and it's just because I'm very aggressive, and God has given me the principle of business. And so I don't really deal with the application, but I deal with the principle of business. And now I just started this lawn care thing, and it started in 2017, and I kind of tripped into that. You know, I kind of tripped into that, you know, and I let it sit dormant after an investment with someone else. I let it sit dormant for some time, and man, I'm gonna tell you something. I ended up, my buddy ended up convincing me to get back into it, and so I didn't know how to cut no grass or run these kind of equipment or things like that. But you know, me being in the collection arena and just having collection for management companies and things like that, I had a database full of information. So what I did was I reached out to the management companies that I was doing, you know, accounts receivables for, and said, hey, listen, you know what I mean, can I go ahead and cut the property, you know? And sure enough, man, we ended up taking off, man, and I have about 7 trucks out here, you know. Started getting accounts, man. Now I'm trying to open up one in Tampa, and I ended up getting back into it just to get my money back, because lawn care was never in my vision, you know what I mean? But now it's become a part of my income. The beautiful thing about it is I'm all over. I'm in 42 zip codes right now, and I come to meet some incredible people, man.
Right.
Oh,
it's a ministry. It's an outreach.
Ministry and outreach. And then even the guys that work for me, you know, here in the city, there was a gentleman that was all over the news, and his 2 children came abducted here in the city of Jacksonville. His name was Brian. It was all over the news, and so, but he was one of my foremen. He worked for me, and so, you know, I supported him and went over there, man, and just prayed for his family and things like that, and just listening to his story, just seeing what he was going through, and I would always say, man, come to church, and you know, he like, I'm gonna come, and he wouldn't come, and then when this thing happened, him and his lady was so distraught, you know, it was really, really big in the city, and you know, and I prayed with him, and he said, man of God, if God is real, man, he said, bring my kids back. And I sat there, you know, and it's kind of like a Job moment with his friend. Sometimes you just got to keep your mouth shut. And as a preacher, you want to say something to encourage him. And I sat there and I listened to this man's heart. And God said, go to the church and get some of that soil. And I went to the church and I'm praying. And I had a meeting. I called the meeting. I said, listen, I'm going to be a little bit late. Is it okay? And he said, yeah. I went to the church, went and got the blessed oil. I came back to his house. I said, listen, I have to go. I said, but God told me to bless this house. It was a JSO officer outside. And I said, can you hold the door so that people won't come in and out of here? And I began to pray in this house. There were people saying that the kids were dead. There were people saying that they're talking. There were psychics people saying it was all over the news. That we're talking to these children from the ground, you know. And after me and my wife and relentless officers searching the city of Jacksonville, I went in there and obedient by God, and I prayed. And when I prayed, I left. 2 hours later, he called me and said, man, my kids are in the house. Man, we started shouting. We started giving God praise. You know, I took the blessed oil and I left it with him. And man, that Sunday, he came in church, you know, and man, we were just so happy. The church went up in array, and just to be able to, this guy worked for me for 2 years, to hear his story, you know, and to hear, you know, all the stuff he's been through, and then to see what happens for God, and these are the testimonies upon relentless amount of things that we've seen in this ministry. But the fact that you can't give up on people. Amen. You know, sometimes they don't respond the way you want them to respond, and because of where you are in your life. And sometimes people don't have the habits that you have because of where they are in their life. But you have to take the Spirit of God amongst with you, you know, and have to have the heart of Christ to say, listen, you know, I'm going to be patient with you. Never underestimate the power of the seed. That's right. Amen. That's right. You know what I mean? And you have to allow, you know, God to be God. That's right. And so I just stay consistent. And I'm gonna tell you something. And this word God placed it in my heart. If I wasn't living the life in front of him as a believer, he would have never been called on me for prayer. Right. You see? I totally agree, yeah. You see? And so, you know. You are a testimony every day of your life to somebody. Every day of life to somebody, you know. And so, and I think that's the importance of this ministry, you know. We're in the paint with you. When you cry, we cry. When you weep, we weep. We've had cancer cases in here, healed. I don't believe that God's given us a healing ministry, you know, but I just seen God's power of healing take place in this ministry, you know. And so, and I tell our church, I said, we are in a mini situation with a mega vision. You know, in a mini situation with a mega vision, and everyone that's in this ministry is from the harvest. I don't have no family here, so I don't have the uncles and the fathers and the brothers and the sisters. You know, everyone is here from the harvest, and we love it. This is home. That's awesome. Last question we're going to answer. Yes, sir. Where do you see the Truth Church in 5 years? In 5 years, I see the Truth Church on large in this city really being an advocate for the lost. Amen. That's where we see this city, this church in this city. We're coming outside the walls. Jesus did ministry in houses, and he did it in the courtyard. Yes, he did. And that's how we're going to do ministry, in this building and outside of it. Get outside the four walls. Get outside the four walls and be an advocate. So that's what I see. Well, we're going to end on that. It was great seeing you, brother. The pleasure is mine, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Yes, sir. We hope you enjoyed Pastor Leroy Hurd with the Truth Church. Thank you for joining us. Tim One Ministries, real talk, real truth with everyday Christians. Have a blessed day.